his words, dirty backroom deals. Are you comfortable getting a majority by people crossing the floor?
Things are about to get real rough here for Carney and Canada. Welcome back to Moose and Loose. My name's David. Today, Mark Carney hasn't gotten a deal with Donald Trump. This is starting to reflect in the polls. People are starting to believe this guy was all talk. Now we've got a preliminary look at America coming out with their list of demands, their changes to the CUSMA review, and there's some big things in there that Mark Carney does not want to negotiate. This could quite possibly spell the end of Mark Carney. We also got a couple other stories, including a panel on CBC where they just go full bore attacking Pierre Poilievre. This is just getting out of control. Let's jump into this. Starting this episode off, we've got some polling data here from 338 of what's going on in Quebec. So we have Pablo Rodriguez took over the Liberal Party, and now you see it tanking. You're seeing the Separatist Party here, their numbers skyrocketing. This is going to shake things up moving forward. Moving ahead, what do we have here on the front page of the National Post? Newest Liberal faces questions on China's stance. Wow, Michael Ma not getting away from this. This guy's so wrapped up with so many United Front Work Department groups directly connected to the Chinese Communist Party. The puppet will not be able to dance out of this one. We also got Katie Merrifield posting this. PM tells a brazen lie here. Conservatives were not attracted to the party. They were targeted. I know this because I was told it was happening. I won't give names. Check my resume. I worked with the best and brightest senior libs over 10 years. So yeah, Mark Carney obviously poaching these people. He's lying again because this is what Mark Carney does. He's a chronic liar. Remember he said Canada provides more semiconductors to America than any other country? It was the first lie he told. The guy doesn't change. We also got this one here. Liberals confirm they courted MP for years before he quit the Conservatives. This is how dirty the Liberals are. They're people lacking any moral character, no ethics, just the worst of the worst. I mean, look where Canada is. It's the worst of the worst because of these people. Moving ahead, look at this bombshell. U.S. list demands Canada must meet to extend CUSMA. Must meet, not a suggestion. And what's at the top of the list? You know what it is. It's supply management. U.S. Representative Jamieson Greer told members of U.S. Congress Thursday that while the trade deal has delivered benefits for American exporters, Washington is not prepared to automatically extend it another 16 years without addressing specific and structural issues. CUSMA has been successful to a degree, he said, according to the document shared, which we're about to look at here after Greer closed-door meeting, adding that gains do not outweigh, as he described, the structural shortcomings. The United States is calling on Canada to expand access to its dairy market and address concerns about exports of certain industrial products. So let's jump over to the source here, which is this document. Quite a lengthy document here. You can see at the top the website here. It's a United States government website. This is Ambassador Greer reporting to Congress on the operation of the USMCA. This is America's document they basically sent over. And scrolling down, there's a section here where it basically breaks it down in point form right here. So that we've got for Mexico and a bunch of things here, Mexican policies that promote the use of third-party content and erode U.S. supply trains, improvements to labor law enforcement, etc. So they have a bunch of things in here. But Canada's right here, and then there's one for both countries. And number one for Canada is what? Market access for U.S. dairy products that Canada committed to provide under USMCA and addressing Canada's exports of certain dairy products. Supply management on the table again. So no doubt this was a part of the negotiation. Mark Carney didn't want to do it. Quick refresher here. So the CDPQ, this Caisse de DuPont Quebec pension fund, is heavily invested in supply management, the dairy cartel, and they're also invested in Brookfield Corporation, Brookfield India, Real Estate Trust, and Brookfield Infrastructure Corp. So these guys are going hand in hand here, not to mention Marc-Andre Blanchard, Mark Carney's chief of staff, as I broke down in another video, has incentives from his role there that pay out year after year after year after he left. He left that job straight to join Mark Carney. He's getting paid out here, deferred variable compensation for the year, $687,000, $767,000, $822,000. You can see here the years 2021, 22, and 23. And this goes forward, I believe it was 5 years from these years that he gets paid afterwards. So he still has multiple years of compensation based on the performance of the CDPQ. So there's no way they're going to touch this. Is CUSMA going to completely explode? That's the question now, because there's way too many ties here. Carney's not going to rock the boat on the Brookfield shares or Marc-Andre Blanchard and CDPQ, not to mention his own voters in Quebec. So this is already a nuclear bomb that the Americans have just dropped on Mark Carney. We've also got the impact of Canada's Online Streaming Act, Online News Act. These are draconian things that should have never been brought in. Restricting news and media. They want that gone. They want provincial bans on distribution of U.S. Stumbling juice. So obviously what Doug Ford's doing in Ontario there, it seems what he focuses his life on, is affecting Americans. They want that on? Discriminatory procurement measures in Ontario, Quebec, and British Columbia. And the funny thing, what did they just roll out? The Buy Canada stuff just like 2 days ago. If you saw that video of Joel Lightbound with the cameraman was just like walking around and pointing it at his shoes and all over the place, it was on that day.
You had expressed some frustration before that you didn't feel that the Prime Minister was necessarily hitting Donald Trump back hard enough. Are you happy with, there's not really a retaliation happening at this moment? Is that continuing to be okay with you?
Yeah, some prime ministers doing a great job. Like I've said before, it's easy for me to sit back and I'm probably the bad guy and he's a good guy. But in saying that, he's sitting there negotiating across the desk or across the chair with them. But it's just my personal opinion. I have an incredible relationship with the prime minister, and I'm always going to support him when it comes to many things.
We've also got complicated customs registration for Canadian recipients of U.S. exports, and finally Alberta's unfair treatment of electrical power distribution providers in Montana. I don't know exactly a lot about the last one here. It's something to do with Alberta says we're not doing anything funny, and then Montana says you are doing something funny with that. They feel like they're getting duped, something like that. And for both countries, it's strengthening the rules of origin non-automotive industrial goods to ensure the benefit of trade in those products flow substantially to the parties. We've got enhancing economic alignment on tariffs, export controls, investment screening, developing mechanisms to penalizing offshore U.S. production to Mexico or Canada as a result of regulatory and other arbitrages, and developing critical minerals marketplace to incentivize more mining, processing, etc., etc., and improving implementation of both countries' forced labor import bans. Going down, there is actually some other details here. For example, here it says several witnesses recommended enhancing the environmental provisions. For example, multiple fishers and fishing organizations requested solutions to address regulatory imbalances with Canadian fisheries in the gray zone, where U.S. fishers are held to higher lobster conservation measures than their Canadian counterparts. It's ironic that America has higher environmental fishing regulations than Canada. So stuff like that. There's other things in here, more detailed provisions they want to change. And while most of these can probably be worked out, this one cannot. Is this going to completely implode Mark Carney's government? That's the question. Carney sees the polls right now. He sees that his numbers are dropping drastically. If you look month to month, they are dropping like a rock. And that's why he's trying to get this majority government, because he knows he's tanking and Poilievre's going to take over. It's his last ditch effort here. So the question is, what was Michael Maw promised? What was Chris d'Entremont promised? Will there be any more? If it's the people who are on the fence, they can see the Conservatives are likely to be a majority or minority government going forward. They won't want to jump, not unless they're offered a ton of money or something in some offshore account. So moving ahead, we got CBC Watcher posting this clip. We got a panel on CBC, which is quite aggravating. I get quite agitated watching it. And before that, we've got quite the zinger coming from Sebastian here, who just absolutely knocks this out of the park.
Well, I mean, if that election were held tomorrow, Sebastian, the PQ would win, and the leader of the PQ, who would become premier, has said he will hold a referendum.
Scary times, but move over, baby Jesus. We have a miracle for the holiday season. A Liberal has finally taken accountability for their own corruption. What a refreshing thing to see in this country. Mr. Rodriguez, who was a prominent cabinet minister in Justin Trudeau's government for the last 10 years and a keen supporter of the new Liberal government as well. Many of his colleagues remain in that cabinet and in that Liberal caucus federally. It is refreshing to see that accountability is front and center. It's unfortunate that it has taken this long and for it to be entirely unrelated to his work on the federal side to result in this. But I hope more Liberals take notice and take notes from Mr. Rodriguez and look within themselves to take account for their own corruption.
That's hilarious. Rodriguez is screwed. Move over, baby Jesus. Hallelujah. Jumping over to CBC here, we got Rosemary Barton, in fact, doing an interview with Mark Carney. I didn't think he was doing any year-end interviews. Turns out he did one with Radio Canada 2 days ago, and now he's doing one with Rosemary. I think that's it. Typically, the Prime Minister will go around and do multiple of these year-end interviews. But obviously, Carney doesn't like doing that because he doesn't like answering hard questions.
When I spoke to Pierre Poilievre recently, his message to you was that if you want a majority, you have to go back to the Canadian people to get it, and not do it by his words, dirty backroom deals. Are you comfortable getting a majority by people crossing the floor?
So before he answers that, his body language has already said his answer.
Dirty backroom deals. Are you comfortable getting a majority?
Right there, he's got duper's delight. He can't help himself. This slimy weasel has got the duper's delight. For anyone new to the channel, duper's delight, the pleasure of being able to manipulate and or deceive someone, often made visible and obvious to others by flashing a smile at an inappropriate moment, getting delight out of duping or an unsuspecting person. In this case, the Canadian people. Getting an unelected majority government brings delight to Mark Carney's face because he doesn't want to have to work for it. Of course he doesn't. This is how he lives his life. He's a charlatan grifter. This guy spent his entire life trying to squeeze as many dollars out of life as possible. Doesn't matter who gets in the way of that.
Well, we're in a parliament, and when we pass legislation, we need more people voting for it than against it. I mean, that's the way. Last time I checked, that's the way Parliament works.
That's such a smug, like condescending way of saying, "Oh, last I checked, that's how we do it."
But that's not what you're doing now. Now you're attracting MPs to the party.
MPs are attracted to what we're doing.
So there's no active recruitment happening?
Premiers are attracted to what we're doing.
Right.
Premier Ford will be here tomorrow. We'll make a major announcement of cooperation. The Conservative Premier of Ontario.
I want to go back to what my question was, which was, are you comfortable getting a majority government through people crossing the floor?
I am comfortable commanding the confidence of the House of Commons and getting through the House of Commons, getting support in the House of Commons and votes, and obviously votes and support in the House of Commons for legislation that is going to protect Canadian communities, that's going to build this country.
Mark Carney says MPs are attracted to what he's doing. Are MPs attracted to, say, $1 million sitting in a Chinese bank account? Are they attracted to that? Just asking, what did he offer them? He's not offering them nothing. Michael Ma just got into office for 8 months and then he's going to cross the floor thinking those are greener pastures over there. Most of these people, when they get these jobs are the most money they'll make in their career. Even the backbenchers, $200,000. I don't know how many people have ever made $200,000 a year. Most of these people, when they get that $200K job, or if they're a minister, $300K, they're going to try to hold on to that job as long as possible. So what did he offer, or what did someone else offer to Michael Ma and Chris d'Entremont? Is Chris d'Entremont going to be up for speaker? Is it an extra $50K? We're not stupid here.
It's going to make our country more independent, more sustainable, more prosperous.
Are there? So to be fair to the Prime Minister, he is right that ultimately this is about commanding the confidence of the House.
Right.
No, this is about not having to do an election where he actually gets the votes needed. Our system is completely broken.
What do you make of that? The door's open. There's a door jam underneath it. The second door is being opened up.
I mean,
what do you think?
Open arms to all comers. And to the question, the substance of the question was, are you comfortable basically not having won an election, majority via an election and, scooping them up across the floor? Sure, he is. And why wouldn't he be? There's nothing that bars it. And so far, it's a successful ploy. And he's one seat shy of a majority.
This is unbelievable. So this is the bureau chief for the Toronto Star. She has no problem with Mark Carney doing dirty backroom deals to get a majority government. It's one thing if you're going from, like, the Conservatives, I believe it was like 96 seats up to 97 back in 2018, where it doesn't affect anything aside from one vote. Even then, I don't think we should have floor crossers. It should just be a by-election. But Mark Carney stealing a majority is undemocratic. The fact that a bureau chief is okay with this is disturbing.
That talking point from the Conservative leader about it's not a question of my leadership, it's the sneaky Mark Carney stuff. Is like, in sports, you don't complain that the other coach is trying to beat you. You know what I mean? And continues to try to score on you. It's welcome to competition, right?
This is not sports, though. This is real people's lives. People can't afford to eat. This isn't sports. This isn't a game of basketball or soccer. People cannot eat. They cannot afford to live. Stealing a majority is undemocratic. I have a bunch of dirty tactics, ideas I have brainstormed. If they get this dirty, unelected majority, it is game on, to use the sports analogy. We're going to make things really dirty around here. Conservatives, we like to have things ethical. We like to have things straight and narrow. But if they're going to play these dirty games, it's time to jump in the mud and really show them who's boss here. We'll wait and see what happens here in the spring. But if we have to, the gloves will be coming off.
But, what do you make of what the Prime Minister's saying there, that there's this broad spectrum and the door is open?
Well, just let me pick up on what Supriya was saying. I mean, the Pierre Poilievre is trying to make the argument, this is the wrong way to go about getting a majority, and they were elected under the Conservatives, and they knew what they were getting, and they stood for all of this. And fair enough as an argument. He's got to make some argument, but I don't think it's going to stick with the public, particularly if Mark Carney is able to have some more MPs migrate over, and all of a sudden there's a majority government. 3 years from now, I don't think anybody necessarily is going to remember whether or not somebody crossed the floor over that period of time, but we'll see.
Bad take by Tim Powers. Clearly, this guy doesn't have a problem paying the bills, buying groceries. In 3 years, Canadians will be suffering even worse. People will be selling off every single thing they own, downsizing, living in cars and tents, struggling to get by. In 3 years, will they remember? You bet they will, because things will be getting worse. Mark Carney will run through his net zero agenda, passing all these draconian laws and bills, unfettered power, him and Tim Hodgson running to the bank, getting stinking rich while Canada crumbles. So yeah, they will be remembering in 3 years. It'll be much worse.
For Mark Carney, why wouldn't you troll? I mean, it's a target-rich environment for him at the moment. And again, he's probably also feeling that there isn't going to be this great outcry. Unlike Alberta, there aren't going to be recall orders brought forward on MPs who may cross the floor. And in certain parts of the country, in certain ridings, the Chris d'Entremont example may apply. If you believe the polling that has been done since d'Entremont crossed the floor, he's doing just fine.
Yeah, Michael Mott not doing so fine. A bunch of people calling for $108,000 to be returned to the constituency office. He essentially robbed the public. There are people already protesting this. This guy's detached from reality. Clearly, he makes a big paycheck at SUMA strategies, whatever. Detached from what real Canadians are going through.
So why wouldn't you try that? And look, this whole notion, I just find it really rich. Today it's the Conservatives. Previously it's been the Liberals. And anybody remember Winston Churchill? He crossed the floor twice. Like, this stuff happens.
Well, he had to get something, and then he had to bring it back, right? I mean, is that...
Yeah, exactly.
The Conservatives have done it too. The Conservatives have accepted Liberal...
David Emerson, Stephen Harper...
Leona Alslip. We don't have to go all the way back.
Yeah, but they didn't get a majority government. There's a big difference, because Mark Carney wants to roll out his agenda, and adding 1 or 2 more seats makes that difference. For the Conservatives, it didn't make a difference adding 1 seat.
So, I mean, I find it such a weird distinction to make. They're not pitching, you know. I mean, like, of course these conversations are happening, right? And you know, to the Conservative counterpoint, like, nobody cares, right? It's really about what the ultimate outcome is. But, you know, I think it's so interesting because the Prime Minister was talking about the wide spectrum of interest that they're garnering. But actually, it's a pretty narrow spectrum, really. They're garnering interest from Conservatives who are in battleground ridings, some of whom, like in Annapolis Royal, would have had some difficulties potentially in their election. But you're not hearing any talk of New Democrats potentially crossing the floor.
Well, I'm just going to say...
as part of this.
No, I've had at least one New Democrat name whispered in my ear, but I have nothing to say how serious it is. But, you know, it's been talked about.
Was this more propaganda whispered in my ear? How is this a source they're putting out national television?
I think, though, what's interesting politically about this is that you're seeing the Liberals, rather, now forming a majority out of Conservatives. They're quite comfortable making that switch. A lot of the policies that Carney is putting forward are things that fit very nicely, traditionally, with the Conservatives, so it's not such a big gap.
He's not putting those policies in, though. This is all smoke and mirrors. If these people actually believe this stuff coming out of their mouths, then they're an embarrassment to themselves. They shouldn't be on TV. When it comes down to it, most of these politicians can be paid off. If there's $1 million put in a Chinese bank account by Xi Jinping, how many of these people do you think would take it? That's the problem we have here. That's why this shouldn't be allowed. So while they chuckle and say this is all fine, this is all legal, they're allowed to do this, it's not ethical. That's the problem. This is not ethical. Just as in Sharia law, Muhammad has an 8-year-old wife. That's not ethical either. That's disgusting. Should we allow that in Canada too? This nonsense on here. So they're talking about Pierre Poilievre's leadership review and Michael Mott is crossing.
His name was a surprise. We had heard other names.
Yeah,
so I think
he was never one of them.
Never one of them. And there is a minority of Conservative MPs sitting in caucus questioning Poilievre's leadership style and whether he learned any lessons from the last campaign. So I think, I'm starting to think that, no, the leadership review is not either the start or the end of his troubles. I think this is ongoing, and there may be caucus challenges he has to manage before and after.
The end of his troubles. The recent poll shows Conservative majority with Poilievre at a flat 0 and Mark Carney at -5. CBC and mainstream media will never address this kind of stuff. Conservative majority government coming from Main Street Research, who was the most accurate pollster in the last election, 42.3 to 41.3. Poilievre's only problem is the propaganda machine that is millions of dollars a day of media attacking him. This lady is unbelievable.
And so I think there is room to maneuver here. But ultimately, what this comes down to is people don't like voting for a jerk. And if you look like...
Mark Carney said, who cares to getting a deal with Donald Trump? He told Rosemary on CBC, look inside yourself, Rosemary. Who's the real jerk here?
You're a jerk, and you're a jerk even to those who are supposed to be allies with you or, to your cause or whatever. then that tends to turn regular people off.
Biggest reason I've never gotten into politics, Tim. People don't vote for a juror. Look, I got the humility thing down. I'm great at humility. I'm the best. Look,